In the beginning, love felt effortless. He noticed things, small things, the way I took my coffee, the songs I replayed, the expressions on my face when I was tired, but pretending not to be. His attention made me feel seen, and I mistook that feeling for permanence. We laughed easily back then, about nothing, about everything. Long conversations spilled into the night and hurried and warm. I believed that ease meant safety, that chemistry meant commitment, that beginnings always told the truth about endings. He listened when I spoke, or at least, it felt like he did. His presence was reassuring, steady, grounding. I built trust quickly, believing consistency in the early days meant reliability forever. I didn't know how fragile that assumption was. Slowly, almost invisibly, things began to change. Not in a way that raised alarms, but in ways that were easy to excuse. Conversations became shorter, responses less curious, laughter more occasional than natural. At first, I blamed life, stress, work, responsibility. I told myself intimacy ebbs and flows, that closeness can't always feel intense. I chose patience over curiosity, reassurance over confrontation. Criticism crept in where affection once lived. Small comments disguised as jokes, suggestions that felt more like corrections. I laughed them off, telling myself I was being sensitive, that love sometimes sounds sharper than it means to. When I felt the distance, I leaned in harder. I planned more, I checked in more. I tried to anticipate needs before they were voiced. I believed effort could bridge any gap if applied generously enough. I became the peacekeeper without realizing it. I learned how to smooth tension before it surfaced, how to change subjects, how to soften truths. I carried emotional weight quietly, believing that was what commitment looked like. Disagreements began to feel one-sided. When I expressed hurt, it was minimized. When I asked for reassurance, it felt inconvenient. So I learned to ask less, to need less, to want less. I told myself this was maturity, that relationships evolve beyond constant affirmation, that independence within marriage was healthy. I didn't see that I was practicing emotional self-denial, not independence. There were moments when I almost spoke up, moments when loneliness rose to the surface, demanding to be acknowledged. But each time, fear intervened. Fear of conflict, fear of being misunderstood, fear of confirming what I wasn't ready to accept. I adapted constantly, adjusted expectations, reframed disappointment. I became fluent in excuses, translating absence into busyness, indifference into stress, silence into strength. Love slowly stopped feeling like connection and started feeling like responsibility. Something to manage, something to maintain, something that depended entirely on my effort to stay intact. I noticed how tired I was all the time. Not physically, but emotionally. Tired of monitoring moods. Tired of explaining myself. Tired of pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. Still, I stayed hopeful. Hope became my coping mechanism. If I held on long enough, if I stayed patient enough, if I proved my loyalty thoroughly enough, things would return to how they were. When the cracks widened, I turned inward. Journaling late at night became a refuge. Pages filled with questions I couldn't ask out loud. Emotions I didn't feel safe expressing to anyone else. Quiet prayers followed. Not dramatic ones. Simple, exhausted ones. Please help me understand. Please help us reconnect. Please help me stop feeling so alone in this. Long walks became sacred. Moments where I could breathe without explaining myself. Where I didn't have to be agreeable or accommodating, just present in my own body, my own thoughts. Those walks often ended with tears I hadn't planned on shedding. Tears that surprised me with their intensity, as if my body was releasing what my voice never had permission to say. I confided in one close friend, carefully, selectively. I didn't tell her everything, only enough to test the truth out loud. She listened quietly, without rushing to fix or judge. She asked gentle questions, the kind that linger. Are you happy? Do you feel supported? When was the last time you felt truly seen? I smiled and answered vaguely, not ready to confront the implications. Her questions followed me home, sat beside me during dinner, echoed in the quiet moments. They made it harder to ignore the truth I had been negotiating with for so long. Still, I survived day by day, functioned, smiled, fulfilled roles. I didn't collapse. I didn't confront. I endured. Survival felt like strength because it was all I knew. I didn't realize then that survival mode slowly trains you to accept less. That resilience without reciprocity becomes self-abandonment. That adapting endlessly can cost you your sense of self. There were nights I lay awake beside him, feeling the space between us more loudly than any argument. His breathing steady, mine shallow, two people sharing a bed, but not a moment. I told myself love wasn't supposed to feel easy forever. That discomfort was part of growth. That doubt was weakness. I silenced instincts that tried to warn me. Looking back, I see how carefully I was preparing myself without knowing it. How the journaling, the solitude, the quiet strength were small rehearsals for standing alone. I was learning how to carry my own emotions without support. How to comfort myself. How to keep going without validation. I thought I was fixing the marriage. In reality, I was teaching myself how to survive its absence. At the time, I couldn't imagine an ending. I still believed effort could save us. That love, once built, couldn't simply dissolve. I didn't know yet that some endings don't arrive as explosions. They arrive as slow withdrawals, as emotional absences that train you to live without what you once depended on. And by the time the loss finally came, I would realize I had already been grieving it quietly for a very long time.